First, turning to Guinea, the head of the UN Office for West Africa and the Sahel, Mohammed Al-Nadif, is coordinating with the UN system and is in touch with national actors in Guinea and immediate neighbors. Mr. Al-Nadif has been interacting with the president of the Commission of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, the foreign minister of Ghana, the current ECOWAS chair, and the president of the African Union Commission, in order to ensure a coordinated UN ECOWAS AU response. The special representative will participate in the ECOWAS Extraordinary Summit on the 8th of September and will hold further meetings at ECOWAS headquarters on the 9th of September. On Saturday, in a tweet, the Secretary General said that he is personally following the situation in Guinea very closely. He strongly condemned any takeover of the government by force of the gun and called for the immediate release of President Alpha Condé. In South Sudan, following fresh fighting, the UN mission there is appealing to national and local leaders to resolve tensions in the town of Tambura and in the wider Western Equatorian region. Yesterday, there were reports of sporadic shooting between groups in Tambura, endangering the lives of civilians, creating the risk of further displacement, and increasing humanitarian needs. This incident follows rising tension and violence over the past few months. Over 40,000 people have been forced to flee their homes. The mission has extended the duration of the temporary base established in Tambura several weeks ago when fighting first broke out. This base allows peacekeepers to carry out day and night patrols and help provide a protective presence for civilians, including displaced families. On the justice front, our colleagues are providing technical support and capacity building for rule of law institutions. To reduce incidents of hate speech, transmission of UN-operated Radio Maria has also been established in the area. Moving to Ethiopia, the World Food Programme said that this month it started delivering emergency relief food assistance to communities in regions bordering war-torn Tigray. In coordination with Ethiopia's federal and regional government authorities, WFP plans to immediately reach 530,000 people in Afar and 250,000 people in Amhara, but will scale up as needs increase and if funding is received. Meanwhile, in Tigray, food security continues to worsen as WFP and its partners struggle to scale up and meet the urgent food needs of 5.2 million people across the region. Food stocks held by WFP and partners had been almost entirely depleted until yesterday, when the first convoy for over 2 weeks entered the region. The WFP-led convoy of more than 100 trucks carried 3,500 metric tons of food and other life-saving cargo, including fuel, health, and shelter items. According to WFP, across Ethiopia, more than 13.6 million people are estimated to be food insecure due to the prolonged combined effect of drought, flooding, desert locust invasions, market disruptions, high food prices, and the COVID-19 pandemic, all aggravated by the recent conflict spreading across northern parts of the country. WFP is calling for an additional $426 million to expand its emergency food assistance response over the next 6 months, as well as provide long-term food security solutions for people as they enter the annual hunger season. The United Nations Support Mission in Libya has noted the release on the 5th of September of Al-Sadi Gaddafi, along with Ahmed Ramadan and 6 other officials of the former regime who were detained for 7 or more years. Mr. Gaddafi's release is in compliance with a legal order following his acquittal by a Libyan court in 2019. These releases represent a significant step towards respect for the rule of law and human rights, and a positive development that can contribute to a rights-based national reconciliation process and further foster national unity. In this regard, UNSMIL commends the efforts of the Government of National Unity, the Presidency Council, and judicial authorities. The UN mission reiterates its calls on Libyan authorities to promptly release thousands of persons who remain arbitrarily detained in facilities across Libya. We've been asked about the decision of El Salvador's Constitutional Chamber of the Supreme Court to allow the president's immediate re-election. We note that this decision comes on the heels of the replacement of the Constitutional Chamber's magistrates on the 1st of May, which already raised concern regarding the impact on the independence of the judiciary and the exercise of effective checks and balances. The Secretary General reiterates his call for the respect of constitutional provisions, the rule of law, and the separation of powers in order to preserve the democratic progress achieved by the Salvadoran people since the signing of the 1992 peace agreements. I have a couple of COVAX updates for you. Costa Rica has received nearly 500,000 doses of COVAX-backed vaccines. Meanwhile, Guatemala received nearly 170,000 doses of vaccines last week. This brings the total number of doses received in Guatemala via COVAX to over 500,000. While more than 36 million doses of vaccines have been delivered to 32 countries in Latin America and the Caribbean through COVAX, our colleagues at the Pan American Health Organization warned that 75% of the population in Latin America and the Caribbean has yet to be fully vaccinated, and more than a third of the countries in the region have yet to vaccinate 20% of their populations. PAHO is accelerating its drive to expand vaccine access throughout the region, as are our UN teams on the ground working alongside authorities. Our team in Jordan continues to work with authorities to tackle the pandemic and address misinformation and vaccine hesitancy. To address the needs of the vulnerable population, including refugees, migrants, and women in rural areas, the UN team, led by UNICEF and WHO, trained 200 colleagues from various agencies and provided them with technical information about the vaccine, behavioral change, and communication skills. They will complement efforts under the Secretary General's Verified initiative, alongside national campaigns to engage in community-level conversations to boost vaccination. The UN Refugee Agency has also supported the appointment of 6 refugee medical specialists in hospitals across the country, and the country team recruited 10 UN volunteers to boost the national COVID-19 hotline. Today is the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. Today, as many as 9 out of 10 people breathe polluted air, leading to some 7 million premature deaths each year, of whom 600,000 are children. In his message, the Secretary General says that unless we act decisively, this number could double by 2050. He calls on countries to do more to improve air quality through better monitoring, stronger emission standards on vehicles, power plants, construction, and other industries. He also calls to accelerate access to clean cooking and clean heating, and to increase investment in renewable energy instead of fossil fuels. His full message is online. And I have a personnel appointment for you. The Secretary General is appointing Mr. Christian Riescher of the Federal Republic of Germany as the Special Advisor and head of the UN investigative team to promote accountability for crimes committed by Daesh/ISIL, or UNITAD. You will recall that this post was established by Security Council Resolution 2379 in 2017 to support domestic efforts to hold Daesh accountable by collecting, preserving, and storing evidence in Iraq of acts that may amount to war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide. Mr. Riescher will succeed Karim Assad Ahmed Khan of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, who was the first Special Advisor of UNITAD and held the position from July 2018 until his resignation, effective on the 15th of June 2021. The Secretary General expresses his gratitude to Mr. Khan for his contributions towards the pursuit of accountability for crimes committed by Daesh and his efforts with regard to the speedy establishment and full functioning of UNITAD. Mr. Riescher previously served as a federal public prosecutor at the German Federal Court of Justice, and he has more than 30 years of professional experience in international and domestic criminal law prosecutions and investigation. And last, tomorrow, Alison Davidian, the Deputy Country Representative of UN Women in Afghanistan, will join us virtually from Kabul to brief on the situation on the ground. And so that is it. Are there any questions for me? Yes, Philippe.
Thank you, Farhan. Today, several NGOs asked to postpone the COP26. What is your reaction?
Yeah, on that, what I can say is that we understand and respect the concerns expressed by various groups. However, the global scientific community has made clear that climate change is now a global emergency, and only an urgent and major step up in climate action can keep the goals of the Paris Agreement within reach and protect the most vulnerable countries and communities from worsening climate impacts. In light of this scientifically established urgency, further delay or second postponement of COP26 is no longer feasible. For now, no changes are planned, but we understand that the concerns. The UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, is working with the UK government to make the COP as safe and as inclusive as possible, including offering vaccines to all participants and paying for hotel quarantine costs where quarantine is required. Yes, Dulcie.
Yeah, I didn't get a sense from Mr. Griffiths whether humanitarian aid is actually being delivered in Afghanistan, and if so, where? And who flew him in and out of the Kabul airport? Thanks.
Well, as he pointed out, there were arrangements. It was negotiated so that he could go through Kabul airport. And as we've made clear, we've also been very thankful to the government of Qatar for its help in our efforts regarding this. Beyond that, he made clear to you that he's negotiating how humanitarian aid can be provided, and is working with the relevant officials, including at the technical level, to make sure that we can get a resumption of that. And of course, we're doing as much as we can to distribute humanitarian aid with our current capacities on the ground. UNRWA continues to be present, and we do continue with humanitarian work, and we'll provide updates as we get more deliveries in. Yes, please. Yeah.
Thank you, Farhan. Today, as you know, Taliban announced government. Can you please say, do you find it inclusive, this government? And am I right understanding that the UN will recognize and will continue to interact with this government?
Well, I think Mr. Griffith spelled out the level of what our interactions are. As you know, the UN Secretariat and the UN doesn't engage in acts of recognition of governments. That's a matter that's done by member states, not by us. From our standpoint regarding today's announcement, only a negotiated and inclusive settlement will bring sustainable peace to Afghanistan. The United Nations remains committed to contribute to a peaceful solution, promote the human rights of all Afghans, notably women and girls, promote sustainable development in line with Agenda 2030, and provide life-saving humanitarian assistance and critical support to civilians in need. Yes, Ibtisam.
Hi, Farhan. I have two questions. The one is on the General Assembly and COVID. As you know, usually when you arrive to the US, after you arrive, you're not required to take a test, COVID test, etc. So my question is, are you going to take additional measures to ensure the security, given the fact that in the US the number of cases are actually going up? And then the other question is on Syria, and whether you have any updates or anything regarding the fights there in the south. And yeah, thank you.
Regarding the issues in the General Assembly, I think for us the crucial thing is that all of the incoming delegates have to abide by the relevant health protocols of the U.S. government, and including of the authorities in New York State and New York City. We don't have additional requirements of them, but I believe you've been to briefings about how we will try to keep this building safe in terms of the numbers being allowed in and the procedures for masking. But we don't have additional requirements over and above what the U.S. authorities have. Oh, wait, 1 second here. My trusty book. So regarding your second question on Syria, I just want to say that we continue to follow the situation in Dara al-Balad with concern, and we've called for an immediate de-escalation, protection of civilians, and full humanitarian access to reach all those affected. And we're not a party to the reported ceasefire agreements, but we're continuing to monitor the situation closely.
Sure. Is there somebody from the UN on the ground there? Are you able to bring any humanitarian assistance or?
Yes, so we've been providing humanitarian assistance to the area, and we're going to continue to try to provide humanitarian assistance throughout the parts of Syria that need it, including to Dar al-Balad. Yes, please. Yes.
Susan from WION News India. Just to follow up on the Taliban, on this new government that was formed. Some of these members are on the UN sanctions list. So I was wondering, will the UN ultimately recognize this Taliban government, and how will that work when some of them are on the UN list and then some of them aren't?
Well, again, as I explained to your colleague, the UN doesn't engage in recognition of governments. That's an issue for member governments to do. Regarding the sanctions list, as you know, under Resolution 1267, there is a sanctions list, and it's up to the members of the Security Council and the relevant 1267 Sanctions Committee to see whether names are added or omitted or dropped from those lists. The list has changed over the years and names have been dropped, but that has to follow a procedure in the Security Council itself. Yes, Dulcie.
Yeah, I had wanted to ask Mr. Griffiths if Mullah Baradar had said he wanted to send his government's own representative to the UN.
Well, that's really a question for the Taliban authorities to answer. It's nothing. It's nothing for us to be able to evaluate from here.
But my question was, did he talk to Martin Griffiths about this?
I think Mr. Griffiths gave you a fairly lengthy rundown of the topics that they've discussed. Yes.
Thank you, Farhan. On July 16, the United States and UNRWA signed a memorandum of understanding. In this memorandum, the U.S. dictates to UNRWA how to behave, how to recruit, how to scrutinize the staff, how not to express their affiliation or their ideologies, and how to even change the curriculum for schools. I think this is a kind of interference, direct interference. It's a precedent that a member state dictates to a UN agency what to do and how to behave. If you cannot answer me why they did that, I really request someone from UNRWA to come and answer all these questions. Thank you.
From our standpoint, the UN Relief and Works Agency interacts with a variety of member states to address their concerns. And we trust that UNRWA does a professional job and its staff do professional jobs, but we are aware that different member states, including donor governments and others with whom UNRWA interacts, have had concerns about its practices, and it is in dialogue with them to address that, and that's part of its own responsibilities.
This is a written agreement. This is something not only just expressing hope that UNRWA will do this and do that.
Well,
this is more than that. It goes beyond.
Again, this is part of the regular interactions that the Relief and Works Agency has with countries to address their own concerns and make sure that the work that we do is objective and is and the professionalism of our staff is respected by all.
So do you say that donations, it's okay to be granted under conditions?
No, what I'm saying is that this is part of a normal dialogue. And indeed, other UN agencies also engage in dialogues with donors and others to address whatever concerns they have about our practices.
Would you please...
So that is a standard part of the work that UN agencies do.
Can you please arrange for the Commissioner General, Mr. Lanzarini, to brief us on that, or any other issue? So please.
We'll see whether UNRWA is interested in a briefing along those lines.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good afternoon, everyone.